Hello viewers and welcome back to the channel. Today we're reviewing the latest Mercedes-Benz GLE. The unit we're reviewing today is the 2020-2021 Mercedes-Benz GLE 450. Once again, this Mercedes-Benz GLE 450 is available for sale at AKAGERA Motors Rwanda. Check out their website through the link in the video's description. And as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact them. And now back to the review. I'd like to first give you a little bit of background on this vehicle. The Mercedes-Benz GLE first came out for the 2016 model year. But back then it was released as a renamed version of the Mercedes-Benz M-Class, and after a long saga with BMW that also makes M-badged cars, Mercedes-Benz decided to rename the M-Class to the GLE to eliminate the confusion between Mercedes-Benz M and BMW M and put this car in line with the E-Class sedan for people to better apprehend its size and how it fits in the whole Mercedes-Benz SUV lineup. Without further ado, here's the car's key fob with the lock, unlock and trunk opening buttons on the front, and on the back we have a button to release the mechanical key that you use when the key fob is not working. And just as you may expect, we have the keyless go comfort package, which allows you to lock and unlock the car without removing the key fob from your pocket or purse. To lock the car, you tap the button on any of the 4 door handles, and to unlock the car, you simply grab the door handle. The interior is as premium as you'd expect from a luxury vehicle, and on the door panel we have 2 tweeters and leather soft touch points and wood trim. The seat controls and the 3-person memory seat configurations are located right below the window, which is a very convenient location. There's a nice and elegant interior door handle and the usual power window controls and power mirror controls. Further below we also have a button to open or close the tailgate from inside the car. You're reminded that you're entering something special by backlit Mercedes-Benz door sills on all 4 doors. All 5 seats in this car are leather wrapped with some nice stitching, and on this driver's seat we have the 4-way lumbar adjustments. There are 2 12-inch screens that take up more than half of the whole dashboard, and they are called the widescreen cockpit. The engine start-stop button is in the usual position, and next to that is a button to turn on or off the auto start-stop feature. As you get inside the car and close the door, a short GLE animation will play in the instrument cluster part of the widescreen cockpit. One thing that you notice as you get inside the car, apart from how beautiful it is of course, is just how quiet it is in here. You press the button to start the engine and you won't know it's on until the instrument cluster turns on and the tachometer reads 500 RPMs. With the car idling, let's go ahead and turn on the headlights, fog lights, high beams as well as the hazard lights, and take another quick look around the vehicle. We'll also check out the engine bay as well. Please note that all 4 windows in this car are one-touch automatic up and down. There are LED turn signals integrated in both side mirrors. I should also mention that you have the same entry and exit light feature that turns on several lights on the exterior of the car upon locking and unlocking the car. The headlights are LED high performance controlled by a set of cameras and sensors behind the interior rear view mirror. Under the hood we have a gigantic 3-liter turbo flat 6 that produces 367 horsepower and 368 pound-feet of torque, mated to a 9-speed automatic transmission, and the power is sent to all 4 wheels through the 4MATIC all-wheel drive system, which propels this car from 0 to 100 kph or 60 mph in just 5.7 seconds. In all 4 corners we have 275 by 50 tires mounted on gorgeous 20-inch 5 twin-spoke AMG wheels. The fuel cap is located on the passenger side of the vehicle, and this car runs on gasoline or petrol. Average fuel economy numbers are 8.85 liters per 100 kilometers or 26 mpg. In the back we have LED taillights, turn signals and reverse lights. Moving back to the interior, the steering column does tilt and telescope electrically. Moving on to the infotainment system, we have a wide range of controls like we saw on the GLC and the GLC Coupe. First, there's the touch input, and then we'll have two trackpads that you use to control the screen, but you can also use voice command, as I will demonstrate a little bit later in the video. In the face of the infotainment system, we'll have a 12-inch screen in the middle of the dashboard. Next to the home button in the top left corner of the screen, we'll have a profiles section where you can create different driver profiles for the same vehicle. After profiles, we'll have the search bar, and from here you can search different menus, settings, or radio stations by typing. You can also opt to handwrite on the trackpad in the center console. Next up, back to the home screen, the very first menu is phone, and from here you can dial numbers or call numbers from the phone book of a connected device. Next, we have the navigation menu. In the navigation menu, one hidden Easter egg is that when you zoom out far enough, you can see the exact number of satellites that are triangulating your current location. Zoom back in and you can select different map viewing modes that include 2D, 3D, or north locked. There's a menu bar on the lower section of the screen, and it's where you'll find the settings. In the advanced section of the navigation settings, you'll find three main categories. First, we'll have view, and this is where you choose the map orientation and what displays on the map. In the announcements section, you can adjust the guidance voice. In the route section, you can pick your favorite route. You can also tell the navigation the kinds of road you want to avoid, like highways or toll roads, or some areas you want to avoid in general. Next, we have the radio menu followed by the media menu, and they both have a clean and simple interface. Media inputs in this GLE include AM, FM, Bluetooth, USB, and the integration of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Right below every menu, there are quick action buttons that you can tap to perform different tasks without entering that menu. Next up, we'll have the comfort menu, and in here you'll find two options. The first one is the seat kinetics, and this will make light movements with the two front seats to help the passengers kind of relax. In the settings, you can choose whether you want the seat surfaces or the backrest to move, or just one of them. In the comfort menu is where you'll also find the controls for the ambient lights, and you can adjust anything from the color, animation, and brightness. Now let's move on to the info menu. Here you'll find four main tabs, and the first one is vehicle. In the vehicle tab, you can see information about how much the gas and brake pedal are being pressed down. And when viewing in full screen mode, you can see the current setting for the area suspension on the right side of the screen. In the engine tab, you can view exactly how much torque and power the engine is producing at a given moment. The consumption tab is exactly what it says it is, and it displays information about how much fuel is being used. Lastly, in the Owner's Manual tab is where you find the online Owner's Manual. In the Mercedes Me and Apps menu is where you find compatible apps synced from connected devices. Lastly, we have the settings. In the Quick Access tab, you'll find different car functions like the Traction Control System or Electronic Stability Program, ESP for short. The M button is for putting the transmission in manual mode so that you can use the paddle shifters on the steering wheel. Next, there's the tow-away protection feature that will sound an alarm when the angle of the vehicle changes, potentially alerting the owner about a possible danger. Next, the P button will turn on or off the parking sensors, also called Parktronic. Next, you can activate an interior motion sensor that will sound an alarm when motion is detected inside the car after locking. Next, we have Downhill Driving Assist, which is the same as Downhill Speed Regulation feature we saw in the GLC 300 4MATIC video a few days back. You activate this when going downhill, and the car will use engine braking to slow down so that you don't have to use the regular brakes. The last function here is lower when entering. When enabled, this will lower the vehicle upon unlocking for passengers to easily hop in. Next, in the Assistance tab, we'll find two settings. First is the camera and parking, and this is where you can adjust the warning tone, volume, and pitch. There are a number of other camera-related settings like the button to open up the backup camera cover. Next, we have the attention assist feature, which will determine whether the driver is paying attention to the road ahead. In the vehicle tab, you'll find a few different settings, and the first one is dynamic select. And from here, you can configure the individual driving mode, which I'll show you a bit later. You can also set the highest speed limit for when you have winter tires on. Next, we have the automatic seat adjustment. You can set up easy entry and exit, and this will move the seat and the steering wheel so that you can easily get in and out of the vehicle. The best part of the seat adjustment must be the seat positioning. You go in here and enter your height, and the car will move the seat and the steering wheel into the most optimum position. More settings include belt adjustment, which will tighten the seat belt as soon as you buckle in. There's also acoustic lock, which will enable the alarm when you lock the vehicle. You can also enable or disable the automatic folding in of the side mirrors upon locking the car. The automatic door lock feature will lock the doors once the vehicle starts moving and hits a certain speed. Next, we have the light settings tab, and from here you can also adjust the ambient lights. You can also deactivate the surround lighting feature that turns on several lights on the exterior of the car once you unlock the vehicle. You can also set how long you want the lights to remain on after you lock the car. Next, let's talk about system settings. First, there's styles and display, and here is where you change the display brightness or turn off the display and switch between day and nighttime viewing modes. You can also change the display styles, and in this car we have 3. As you cycle through these styles, you change the look of both the instrument cluster and infotainment screens. By default, the style is set to classic, but there's also sport and progressive. Please note that the different display styles don't affect the driving characteristics of the vehicle. Other system settings include controls, and here is where you'll find adjustments for the keyboard and handwriting. Next, we have Lingotronic settings. And Lingotronic is just a fancy name for the Mercedes-Benz assistant. Next, we have the audio settings section. And here you'll find the usual audio controls like the equalizer, balance and fader adjustments. You also find different audio adjustments, like the one that lowers in-car entertainment volume when you shift into reverse so that you can better hear the warning tones. Next, we have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth settings, or in other words, connectivity settings. Apart from connectivity settings, you also get the usual time and date settings, language settings, and unit settings. You also get over-the-air software update and the factory defaults reset button. Back to the home screen, I'd like to mention that you can move the different menu items by tapping and holding on the item, and use the 2 arrows to move it around, and once you're done, you tap the confirm button on the menu. On the home screen, you also find something called themes. To access the themes, you need to swipe up on the home screen and you'll be given a number of options to choose from. Please note that unlike the display styles, the selected theme will adjust everything from the 2 screens in the dashboard and the climate controls to the ambient lights and the drive modes to further immerse you in the theme of your choice. And you're not limited to the preset themes because you can create your own. Moving on, below the infotainment screen we have 4 air vents, and the airflow is controlled by the 2 dials on either side. Further below, there are buttons for the climate controls. The first button controls the temperature on the driver's side. The following button brings up the climate controls in the infotainment screen. Then there's a button for the fan speed and another one for the automatic climate control. In the middle of the stack we have the hazard light switch, followed by a button for the rear defroster and another one for the air recirculation system. There's also an AC button and a button to sync the 2 zones into one. Here's what the infotainment screen looks like with the climate controls displayed. Next, we slide open the brown open pole walnut wood trim lid that covers the 2 cup holders and the wireless charging pad. With the push of a button, you can cool or warm the drinks you place in these cup holders. There's also a wireless charging pad and 2 USB ports, one of which you use for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You also have a regular 12-volt power outlet. Further back, we have the trackpad that you use to control the infotainment system. To the right of the trackpad, we have a scroll wheel for the volume and power functions. There are also shortcut buttons for the infotainment system. Next up to the left, we have the dynamic select scroll wheel. And this gives you the ability to switch through different drive modes for the vehicle, including Eco, Comfort, Sport, Individual, and Off-Road. Below the dynamic select scroll wheel, we have the button for the parking cameras. You press that and the cameras come up in the infotainment screen. Next, we have a button labeled with a car, and this takes you to the quick access tab in the settings. And the button labeled with the star can be mapped to do just about anything. Behind the trackpad, we have a large scroll wheel to raise or lower the air suspension in this car, or aromatic as Mercedes-Benz calls it. Below the center armrest, we have decent storage and an extra USB port. Like I mentioned before, there are paddle shifters mounted on both sides of the steering wheel. Speaking of which, on the left spoke there are buttons for the cruise control system and adjustments for the instrument cluster area. The instrument cluster screen itself is adjustable in 3 parts. There's the middle part of the screen, and the speedometer and tachometer adjust independent of each other. First, in place of the speedometer, you can have the clock, 2 trip computers and a trip itinerary, a media screen, and another screen that displays your pitch and roll angles and the compass. In the middle part of the screen, you have a digital speed readout on top, and below that you can either have an odometer and a trip computer, or a fuel consumption gauge, an eco driving display or one of the 2 trip computers, or you can bring up the trip itinerary in full screen. Now, in place of the tachometer, you can have a fuel consumption gauge, an eco driving display, the navigation map, a G-force meter, the 4MATIC system display, or the aromatic air suspension display. This car, like most modern Mercedes-Benz, has a column-mounted gear lever, which is quite simple to use. You press the brake pedal and push down for drive or up for reverse. Press the button at the end of the stalk to engage park. And now I'd like to demonstrate the voice command feature. Turn off the AC.
The air conditioning is switched off.
Hey Mercedes,
How can I help you?
turn up the temperature on the passenger side.
16 degrees on the front passenger's side.
The parking brake is by the headlight switch. You push to disengage and pull to engage. An unusual thing about the seat controls is that when you press the button labeled with the seat and R, the buttons you usually use to adjust the driver's seat are now adjusting the passenger seat. On the roof liner, we have the usual Mercedes-Benz reading lights and a sunglass holder. There is also a button that turns on the reading lights in the second row seats. There are sun visors on either side of the vehicle with integrated vanity mirrors and accompanying lights, and a Bluetooth microphone. Let's shut off the engine and check out the rest of the vehicle. In the back, we have heat insulating dark tinted windows, and as you get in the second row, you realize just how much room you have, as this is a very huge SUV with only 2 rows of seats. There are 2 cup holders integrated in the middle seat of the second row bench, and there are 2 air vents behind the center console for the second row seat occupants. And below that, you have 2 USB ports for charging. The windows in the second row seats are equipped with an electronic sunshade that smoothly rolls up when you try to pull on the power window switch after the window is already in place. The second row seat occupants also get the usual reading light, a retractable grab handle, and a retractable coat hanger. Moving on around the back, there are several ways to open the tailgate, and the first one is through the button on the key fob. You can also use the button on the driver's door panel or walk up to the car and press a button above the license plate area. Alternatively, you can walk up to the car and place your foot under the bumper and the tailgate will automatically open. The cargo area in this vehicle is very decent, and on the left is where you'll find a light and a grocery bag holder. On the other side, you'll find a button to lower the vehicle for easier cargo loading. The same button will also raise the suspension after loading the cargo. Under the loading floor, we have a space-saving spare tire and the tire changing equipment. The button on the tailgate that you use to close it will also be used to set the opening height if for some reasons you don't want it to open all the way. Moving on to the front passenger side of the vehicle, we'll find the standard glove box compartment with decent storage space. That's the all-new GLE 450. I've also reviewed the GLC 300 and the GLC 300 Coupe. I'll leave a link to those videos in the description for you to check out as well. As always, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and share with your friends. Also subscribe for more great car reviews coming next.